Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
The time is 5 o'clock. You're listening to Manx Radio. I'm Dave Moore, and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus Manx sport, business, travel updates, along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, a police officer walks free from court today with allegations against him dropped. Visitor numbers for the last two Manx Grand Prix and Classic TT are down. Plus, a lifeboat disaster is remembered. That's all coming up in the next half an hour. First of all, with the news headlines at 5 o'clock, it's Christian Jones. Faster, Mai.
A serving police officer has walked free from court after a domestic abuse allegation against him was dropped. PC Mark Hemsel had been accused of subjecting his former partner to psychological and physical abuse between 2017 and June of this year. Brighton Commissioners will open the access road to the Roundhouse tomorrow afternoon. It's been the subject of a lengthy dispute between the local authority and the Department of Health and Social Care. Douglas Council says a housing association is a short-term fix to the island's housing problem and won't improve the situation. Council leader Claire Wells says she'll continue to lobby central government for changes to the budgeting process for housing. Another sheltered housing provider on the Isle of Man says it's in talks with Isle of Man Energy over gas prices. The Southern Sheltered Housing Joint Board says it's attempting to obtain domestic rather than commercial tariffs for its tenants. And the Speaker of the House of Keys has been named Chair of the Commonwealth Association of Public Accounts Committees. Joan Watterson says he's honoured to take on the role, pledging to strengthen financial accountability across member nations. In international news, a man who repeatedly drugged his then-wife and invited strangers to rape her while she was unconscious has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. He's one of 51 men found guilty for participating in the attacks against Gillian Pellico over a 10-year period. The Bank of England has maintained its guidance for gradual interest rate cuts next year as it kept the base rate at 4.75%. The announcement follows yesterday's figure showing inflation rose to 2.6% last month. And millions of people in the UK are earning roughly £150 a month by selling items on second-hand platforms. A survey found more than 23 million people are using the apps and making enough to pay the average yearly energy bill. Those are the Update News headlines, next at 6.
Moving on to the weather, and the strong northwest wind will back west and ease for a time this evening. Best temperature of 8 degrees Celsius, then minimum temperatures of 5 overnight. Cloudy tomorrow with a spell of rain arriving in the morning, then clearing early afternoon with clear sunny intervals developing. Strong northwest winds backing west later with a best temperature of 9 Celsius. Further rain is then expected overnight into Saturday. Spells of rain through Saturday morning, followed by showers and sunny spells. These showers possibly wintry over the hills later in the day, becoming very windy as the strong southwest wind veers west and increases to gale force. Top temperature of 10 degrees Celsius.
Manx Glass and Glazing will be closed for Christmas and the New Year from the 20th of December, reopening Monday the 6th of January.
Making life easier with Manx Mobility at the top of Summer Hill. Are you looking for a stair lift? Look no further with Which Magazine's #1 recommended stair lifts. Now provided by Manx Mobility. Access BDD stair lifts. Call us today on 200 680.
Carpetland, the carpet specialist with the island's best value carpets in stock, often fitted within a week. Furnitureland for 3-piece suites, dining and living room furniture, and a selection of amazing beds. Carpetland and Furnitureland, West Street, Ramsey.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits. Simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Direct cremation is just that, an affordable and simple cremation without all the costs associated with a funeral service. Find out more by visiting directcremation.im or phone Direct Cremations on 478 422.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Long-serving police officer has walked free from court after a domestic abuse allegation against him was dropped. Tessa Hawley has this report.
PC Mark Hempsall had been accused of subjecting his former partner to psychological and physical abuse between 2017 and June this year. It had been alleged the 57-year-old had also used his police radio to track the woman's movements. However, at Douglas Courthouse today, the prosecutor told the court she wished to withdraw the allegation. She said it was something better dealt with as a professional standards matter and not in the criminal arena. Mr. Hempsall's advocate highlighted how his client had been arrested at Ronaldsway Airport in September after returning from a holiday with a new partner by more than 6 of his colleagues. He'd then spent 3 nights in police custody before making his first court appearance. Applying for costs, the advocate said the evidence in the case should have been reviewed properly before his client was charged, saying this case really should not have got off the ground. Adding a substantial 5-figure amount of money had been spent on launching a defence, the advocate added it would be entirely appropriate for his client's costs to be paid. The prosecutor told the court that matters had been reviewed as soon as possible, with the ultimate decision not to proceed taken by the Attorney General's chambers yesterday. Awarding costs which will be paid from government's central funds, magistrates told the court it does look as if this matter could have been handled more appropriately. Manx Radio asked the Isle of Man Constabulary to comment. It says a thorough and impartial investigation has taken place, and as a result of the further evidence gathered, the Attorney General's chambers has made the decision that the case no longer meets the threshold for prosecution. As such, the matter has been withdrawn from criminal proceedings. The Isle of Man Constabulary is still conducting an internal investigation on this matter and will not be providing any further comment at this time.
Tessa Hawley reporting. Now, if you listened to the show yesterday, you'd heard Chanel Saku, our reporter, raising concerns about gas from residents in sheltered housing. Today, and as Chanel mentioned, we've been running a story about the Southern Sheltered Housing Joint Board, which oversees all the units in the south of the island, and its confirmation that it's attempting to obtain domestic tariffs for tenants who utilise gas to heat their homes. And on the Man in Line today, Ramsey resident Eric Corkish, who was an instrumental voice in getting a lower rate in the north, called on all residents with concerns to ask questions and speak up for themselves.
I'd just like to say anybody in any sheltered housing should be onto their housing officer and find out what it is they're paying. And if they're paying what we were paying, then they need to do something about it. They need to make a noise. Nobody's going to do it for them. You know, they need to get in touch with the officer, and the officer, I mean, we're very lucky we've got a very good housing officer down here, and the work he put in to get this reduction that we got was fantastic. But we need the other people that are in the same position as we are now to do what we did.
How long did it take you to get the lower rate, Eric?
6 months, you know, and it's 6 months far too long. They were wrong. They knew they were wrong, you know, but they weren't prepared to concede. And I've got to put my hand up to Chanel on your news team. The interviews she did with me and put out were absolutely fantastic, and I'm not sure we would have got the same result without them items going on the news. And that's what it needs. But don't let anybody in other sheltered housing go and ask your housing officer today how much you're paying for your gas. If it's what we were paying before, then it needs changing. So I'm just saying to them, go and do it. Don't sit and wait. Just do it there and get the price down.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The number of visitors attending the Manx Grand Prix, Classic TT and Festival of Motorcycle has gone down in the last 2 years compared to meetings immediately before the COVID pandemic. Our sports editor Rob Pritchard has this report.
Passenger survey figures revealed by Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston state in 2023 there were 14,130 visitors, which slightly increased to 14,229 this year. However, the last 2 years are lower in comparison to 15,754 in 2016, 16,218 in 2017, 15,627 in 2018 and 16,019 in 2019. No racing took place in 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic, whilst data is unavailable for the 2022 Manx Grand Prix. The Minister says this is due to changes in the passenger survey process following the resumption of unrestricted travel post-COVID. These statistics come in written response to a Tynwald query from Ramsey MHK Laurie Hooper, who'd asked what visitor levels for the August meeting were in the last 8 years. Mr Johnston adds, whilst the visitor numbers above reflect simply those associated with the previous Manx Grand Prix, Classic TT and Festival of Motorcycling events, many will be repeat visitors who attend other motorsport events throughout the year, and as such, there are broader benefits associated from having a series of attractive and appealing motorsport events, over and above what can be measured by considering these numbers in isolation. In October this year, it was revealed the Classic TT will be returning in 2025 alongside the Manx Grand Prix in an expanded 12-day race programme. For the last 3 years, the MGP has run on a shorter 9-day format.
Rob Pritchard reporting. Tonight's the last late-night Christmas shopping, Douglas. The period got underway towards the end of November. The last couple of weeks have been hampered, though, by poor weather. Lewis Foster, our reporter, has been asking retailers on Strand Street how trade has been so far.
It's been very, very busy. Even on the wet, dreary, windy days, we've had a good number of people through the shop, so it's been excellent. Lots of friendly faces from the old shop and lots of new ones now that we're on the main street.
Tell us you moved here earlier this year, is that right? How's the move been?
We moved, just opened beginning of October, so obviously it's a busy period for trade anyway, but yeah, it's been really, really good.
Are you finding people are in the Christmas spirit already?
Yes, certainly.
Why do you think people still value the high street over, say, ordering from the internet?
I do think people like to come in and have a look and know exactly what they're getting. Maybe having learnt the hard way with buying online, we've all made mistakes, and I think it's good that people definitely seem to be coming out supporting the high street, which is really good.
You don't have to be concerned about delivery, I suppose, as well.
There is that. Yeah, I have had a few people saying they've been let down on delivery, and that's at least you know, and we're doing our best trying to source things that might have sold out for customers as well. We'll go above and beyond, but we do appreciate all the support that we have had.
It's been up and down, actually. We have been experiencing some really busy periods, some really quiet periods. It's also weather dependent as well, so obviously the more people are out when it's not as miserable.
It's slowly picking up again now, especially with late night shopping, which is nice to see. I think the street was slowly dying, but it just got picked up again, so hopefully it carries on all the way through.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Lewis speaking there to representatives from Magazzino, Terry's Tatoes and the boardroom. So in terms of travel, everything's looking good so far. Everything on time at the airport and sailings on time as well, and nothing to report of delay-wise on the roads.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside. With less than a week to go until Christmas, it's certainly a magical time of the year, but in one part of the British Isles, the festive lights will be switched off this evening to commemorate a tragedy which took place on this day 43 years ago. It's been a special year for the RNLI as it marks its bicentennial anniversary, with the Isle of Man, of course, playing a very prominent part of its history. And at 5:30 tonight, Siobhan Fletcher will be presenting a special programme about the RNLI. The 19th of December, though, 1981, is etched indelibly in the charity's 200-year existence. On this date, the Falmouth Coast Guard received a message from the Union Star, a mini bulk carrier with 8 people aboard, including a pregnant woman and her 2 children, attempting to make its way through very heavy seas. And a warning, some people may find the following content upsetting, as it contains actual recordings of the events as they happened.
Land's End Coast Guard, loaded. Land's End Coast Guard. Union Star, calling Land's End Coast Guard. Union Star, this is Falmouth Coast Guard. Over. Yes, we're off. Approximately now 8 miles east of Wolf Rock. Engines have stopped, and we are unable to get them started at the moment.
The situation quickly deteriorated And the Solomon Brown, with its crew of 8 volunteers, set off from Penley Lifeboat Station to go to the aid of the Union Star, and when they reached the vessel, it was dangerously close to the coastline.
Union Star, yeah, we're going to make a attempt there to get alongside at the moment. Okay, skip, yeah.
In appalling weather conditions, the Solomon Brown began rescuing the people on board.
Farmers Coast Guard, this is a Penny lifeboat. Plenty of folk calling Farmers Coast Guard. Penny lifeboat, Farmers Coast Guard, go. We got 4 men off, hang on, we got 4 off at the moment. Male and female. There's 2 left on board at the time. Penny lifeboat, Farmers Coast Guard, I understand you have 4 off, and you say there's 2 left on board, ever? Penny lifeboat, Farmers Coast Guard, ever?
That was the last message received from either vessel. In its rescue attempts, the Solomon Brown repeatedly manoeuvred alongside the Union Star despite 60-foot breakers. The bravery of those involved would be to no avail, as everyone on both craft perished. Some of the 16 bodies were never recovered. And so the lights are switched off every year in Mousehole on December the 19th in memory of those who didn't make it home for Christmas on that fateful night in 1981. The RNLI exists through public support, and you can help this vital lifeline by making donations to rnli.org.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Cycling events on Ireland this month are aiming to raise funds to make sure the Isle of Man's represented in the sport at next year's Island Games. Rob Sorby, who co-managed the cycling team in Guernsey, explains the financial challenges competitors face in trying to make it to Orkney 2025.
A lot of people aren't aware that all the competitors from all the sports, when they attend, they pay for themselves to attend, and this year is going to be quite expensive because cost of things are rising, as we know. It's going to come to somewhere in the region of about £2,200 per athlete. So whatever sport you're doing, that's the cost roughly for sort of your travel and your accommodation. There are differences between sports, but that's what it is for cycling. Now, obviously, these riders we're going to be asking to represent the island, there's a selection process, and then once they're selected, they're expected to pay. So what we're trying to do is to reduce that cost. A lot of them are young riders as well, because we want to encourage the Island Games is a great development step for some of these riders, so we want to encourage them.
When we're speaking of the Island Games, yourself alongside Gianni Epifani were sort of like the coaching / management team, if you like, in Guernsey at the last Island Games. For whichever riders end up being selected, how big an opportunity is it to compete on an international stage?
Yeah, it's a strange event, the Island Games, isn't it? It is a huge international event, but it obviously only involves a select group of places, being islands. As an experience for whether you're a young rider, as we said, or someone who's perhaps working in their 30s but takes up cycling to a serious level. I can name a few people who do that. It's a really high level of competition. When you turn up to the games, they are run very efficiently, and you're riding against riders who from all abilities in terms of cycling. For example, the Saramar team last year contained some ex-professionals and some what's called Pro Conti riders, which are kind of like the league below, with a sort of Cavendish level, which is a world tour. The level is very high, and it's a great opportunity, stepping stone for a youngster or something for someone, who's a bit older and takes the sport very seriously, but wants to compete at the highest level they possibly can.
You're listening to Update on Manx Radio. The number of children in the island's secure care home has reached the highest level for 9 years. That figure's been released as part of an answer to a Tynwald question. Tessa Hawley can tell us more.
Statistics for 2024 to date show 20 young people have been admitted to the facility on 47 occasions. 38 of these admissions were for remand purposes, 6 were for custodial reasons, and 2 were for welfare. One young person has been in the unit in custody for 271 days this year. The Cronk Solish unit on the Old Castletown Road is run by St Christopher's Fellowship on behalf of the Isle of Man Government. Onken MHK Julie Edge asked for the data showing how many children had been resident there due to welfare need, custody or both since 2016. That was asked as part of a Tynwald question. The data shows that in 2016 there were 12 admissions for 8 young people. The following year there were 7 admissions for 4 young people. In 2018 there were 31 admissions for 9 youngsters. In 2019, 23 admissions for 10 young people. Moving to 2020 and the numbers go up, 35 admissions for 12 young people. In 2021 they rise again, 39 admissions for 14. And in 2022, there were 24 admissions for 13 young people. Last year, there were 28 admissions for 13 young people. And as we said, in 2024 to date, 47 admissions for 20 young people. Now, the information has been provided by the Justice and Home Affairs Minister. In response to Ms Edge's question, Jane Paul Wilson said her department and the Department of Health and Social Care work in partnership to appoint and support an independent monitoring board. The board is said to undertake regular monitoring visits of the secure facility and reports back to both departments. You can find the full Tynwald question and all that data at manxradio.com.
Tessa Hawley reporting. Hospice Isle of Man is offering their annual Christmas tree removal service with the aim of raising funds in the process. Anyone seeking to have theirs disposed of in the new year is asked to contact the charity either by telephone or through their website. The charity's communications and marketing executive is Stephanie Smith.
Our Christmas tree recycling service is a service that allows people's real Christmas trees to be collected directly from a person's front door, so there's no hassle involved for the person that registers with us after the festive period is over.
Is this a brand new initiative? Is this the first time you've done this, or have you done this in previous years?
No, we've done this in previous years. So this initiative started around 8 or 9 years ago for hospice.
Generally, how many trees do you collect? And is it, I'm guessing it's island-wide, is it?
It's island-wide. We offer the service to every household. And last year we had a record-breaking year. We had over 900 trees collected.
How does it work then? How do people get involved?
So people will register with hospice on our website over the phone, whatever's easiest for people. They'll make a donation, suggested donation of £15, which is obviously gratefully received by us here at the charity. We have a bunch of volunteers from the Isle of Man Post Office. They will go out on a selected weekend in January. They will collect the trees for us from people's houses. They'll then take them down to Tell Skips. Tell Skips will shred them for us. And then they go to Ballinevan Compost, who will then compost the trees for us. And eventually some of that compost will come back into the hospice gardens.
And so then, how do people get in touch with you? What's the best way, if they want their tree recycling and help hospice out at the same time, what's the best way of doing that?
Best way for people to register to have their tree collected is via our website. So www.hospice.org.im/tree cycle. Or by giving us a call on 672222.
And when does that go to? When does this scheme finish?
So last registrations are the 8th of January, and that's to have trees collected over the weekend of the 11th and 12th of January.
Now, the Speaker of the House of Keys has been appointed chair of the Commonwealth Association of Public Accounts Committees. Joan Waddison told Christian Jones the role's significantly important, a significant opportunity, I should say, to strengthen financial accountability across member nations.
It's a 10-year-old organisation that tries to bring together members of public accounts committees from all around the Commonwealth with a view to setting benchmarks, creating partnerships and making sure that there's a forum for best practice around the Commonwealth. So it's something that is really important. There's an awful lot of places struggling in various different ways with holding governments to account and ensuring that governments are effectively and efficiently run. Our job is to sort of try and work together on those differences, try and work together with resources and best practice, and to try and raise everyone's game, really.
And you've been appointed as the chair of CAPAC, which has 57 member committees altogether. And it is global when you look at the countries at the table. So it's a fairly significant position to be given. Is that right?
Yeah, for someone from the Isle of Man, when you look at some of the member states in there, the UK, Pakistan, Canada, some really big international players with far more resources than we have. But I think over the recent years, the Isle of Man has become quite well known as a good PAC within CAPAC. We've got a good reputation for doing quite a lot with not a lot of resources. And that's the sort of thing that we'd like to sort of replicate around the Commonwealth, really.
And just lastly, for your typical Manx resident who might look at this and say, well, how does this actually affect me? What would you say to that? How does involvement with CAPAC benefit Joe Bloggs on the street?
Well, it's one of the things that having that exposure certainly helped me get up to speed from moving from the accountancy world into the political world in my early years. So this is an opportunity for one to give back to that organisation. But also I do believe that some of the experiences that we get from other nations in terms of participating in these online forums do help us raise our game here on the Isle of Man and make sure that we've got as broad a suite of tools as possible to when we're looking at the Isle of Man government and how we ensure value for money for the taxpayer and the recommendations that we then come back with and follow up on.
And now time for sports with our sports editor, Rob Pritchard. Faster my.
Faster my, Dave. Starting with football, vital funds have been raised for two Ireland organisations following a charity match between the Isle of Man men's national team and FC Isle of Man in Douglas last night. Under the floodlights of the bowl, FC Isle of Man emerged 5-2 winners on the night and were 2-0 up at half-time, courtesy of goals from Charlie Higgins and Sam Baines. Substitute Adam Adebayi then bagged a brace to put the Ravens 4 up before the Isle of Man national side got on the score sheet through eventual man of the match Thomas Brown. With 20 minutes to go, Tom Creer got FC Isle of Man's 5th before Brown found the net again for the Isle of Man squad with 5 minutes remaining. In 2024, the annual charity occasion, which is now in its third year, is generating funds for Hospice Isle of Man and I'll Stand Up to Suicide. FC Isle of Man is thanking supporters who came out to support the cause, adding the full amount raised will be revealed in due course. Elsewhere, Isle of Man professional cyclist Matthew Bostock secured a podium finish during his latest competitive outing with the Great Britain track cycling squad. The 27-year-old was one of the elite men's riders taking part in this year's Trofeo Internacional de Pista Alves Barbosa meeting in Portugal on the 15th of December. There, Bostock claimed third place alongside GB teammate Finlay Tarling in the men's elite Madison. The Manxman crossed the line 8th in the men's elite points race. Well, elsewhere in 2024, Bostock enjoyed success on the British Cycling National Circuit Series, where he and the Ribble Rebellion team claimed first place in the team classification of the competition. And finally, would you like to play a crucial role in road racing in the south of the island this coming year? The Southern 100 Club has now opened applications to become a marshal for the Prix TT Classic Road Races and Southern 100 Road Races in 2025. Anyone who wants details on how to sign up is asked to contact Chief Marshal Dewan Crawley on 430-687 or by email on chiefmarshal, all one word, all lowercase, at southern100.com. Next year marks the 70th anniversary of road racing on the Blount course. The Prix TT Classic Road Races will be first from the 23rd to the 25th of May, before the Southern 100 Road Races from the 7th to the 10th of July.